Hello, today I'm joined by my guest James Dolan. He is the head of pre-sales and customer solutions at Alto. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, David?
Yeah, I'm very well, James. I'm very well. Glad to be catching up with you guys. And I suppose today what we're going to be talking about is we're going to bring all the elephants out of the room into the center of the room and kind of address them all. Because let's put it this way, Alto's been around for quite a while, long enough for it to have been through several different incarnations, if you like, or cycles. I think the current one is extremely encouraging and extremely exciting, and I think the agents need to hear about that. But let's face it, some people their memories are stuck in the past. So if you knew Alto, say 5 years ago as a product and also as a company and kind of the service that they provide, it wasn't always positive, although it was always a very strong player in the CRM marketplace. Some of the reviews and some of the news about it wasn't always positive. I think it's very fair to say, from anybody that's had more recent interaction, a lot of that, if not entirely, has changed, but it's a very different beast altogether. So I just wanted to kind of throw that difficult one at you to start with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as you highlighted there, like Alto has always been a leader within the industry, in terms of user numbers, in terms of innovation, but that did slow slightly. And if we're honest, there was a period where Alto needed to do better over the last 4 or 5 years, and the feedback reflected that. Um, there was then a lot of change. We were part of a much bigger entity with the likes of Zoopla and the softwares that we've got and Home Track, and decisions were made across all those businesses. But what we've done is we've put a brand new leadership team in place, purely focused on software as opposed across the whole of the business. That now is led by Rick Dawson, and the focus was simple when we go back probably 2 years. Let's get the fundamentals right. Let's get product stability correct. Let's focus on how we onboard customers, support, as that is always a key entity of it. Um, and let's start focusing on what matters to estate agents on running their business. And we called that part getting back to core. Let's get back to what we're good at, understanding the challenges that are there, talking to our customers and knowing where they want innovation. And what's happened since we've done that is significant. We're now the fastest growing CRM provider in the market. That was official for 2025. We've had record-breaking year for new business off the back of that. But more importantly, with our customers that we already had that were probably not seeing that innovation as quick as possible, and we weren't speaking to them, we've now completely changed the way that we talk to our customers, we share information, we put a whole customer success team in place who now are actively speaking to our customers, understanding their challenges in market, where they want us to focus our product on. And we've seen a real shift in sentiment from that audience. And that's dramatically shifted those reviews. And I think we're seeing that on the likes of your platform, Kerfuffle, amongst others.
Yeah.
So it's super positive. We've still got a long way to go, and we can keep improving and we can keep innovating, and let's not take any of that for granted. But 100% we are seeing a real
Well,
shift.
I was about to say that the proof of the pudding is very much both in the experience that the customers are having, but also you can see that reflected in the reviews and the sort of reputation that you guys are now building and that trust that is being restored. And I think we can say many, many things about our wonderful property industry. And you and I've been very active in it for a long time. And so you see lots of different players come and go and companies that want to change the world and so on. But I think it doesn't take prisoners. And so therefore, you are judged by your results, you are judged by your service. And if people truly aren't happy with that, you do hear about it. But likewise, it's always nice to see when people are happy with it. You see that kind of uptick in reviews and people start to actually sort of share their experiences, and that is what we're hearing coming back when you're looking for more recent feedback on where Alto is. Um, so given that, then James, where do you see the state of the market at the moment? Because it's an interesting time just in terms of what's going on in the world globally, but also recent changes we've had in our marketplaces. But how do you read it?
Yeah, I mean, look, a state agency isn't getting it any easier, right? And you highlighted that with what's happening within global affairs, what's happening in compliance. I mean, we've got a huge amount of change happening with renters' rights right in front of us. But ultimately, there's fewer homes, there's higher expectations from clients. They expect everything immediately, no matter what time of the day that is. And we see that across other industries, the way that the food industry changed with Deliveroo and Just Eat and taxis with Uber. It's I want to order it right now and I want to be serviced right now. Uh,
Correct. Yeah.
so look, the agencies that win in aren't necessarily working harder. They're working much smarter and they're utilizing AI. And yes, big buzzword, and there's many ways that AI is coming into today, but it's those that are really understanding where that can enhance their business, where it can speed up processes, not necessarily remove that human interaction, because those relationships, I think, in our industry are still fundamental. Um, but ultimately, where is AI going to support your business in order to you to, like I said, go faster, remain compliant, speed up, those very admin heavy journeys and maintain your market share and then look at how you grow that, in a challenging market.
Well, let's talk about that because you mentioned that it was the buzzword. So I suppose if you would have joined any kind of webinar 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you would have heard stuff about how crypto is going to change everybody's life. And we all used to talk
Yeah.
about the blockchain. You don't hear about the blockchain
You
anymore.
don't? Yeah.
But it was going to revolutionize everybody's life. But I think it's fair to say the same sort of buzzwords these days tend to be heard around AI, but I think the difference is you can see it changing people's lives very quickly, rather, almost before our very eyes, we see a shift. And I'll give you, for instance, I have spent some time talking to agents up and down the country when we're training them, and you are asking them, where was the last, can you tell me where the last 5 instructions you got came from? There is a shift. So you used to go, well, people used to say, well, they found me on a portal or they found me on a website or it's reputational review, or they may have found you on Google. Now, more frequently, people are saying, actually, somebody told me that they found me on an AI search. So I think it's changing the way that our customers see us and find us. I think there are challenges to agents, therefore. I think a lot of people are starting to use AI. They don't really fully understand the way it's going to impact us because I think we're using it almost just on surface level at the moment. There's so much more it's capable of. What is real in all of this, and what is hype as far as you're concerned?
No, I kind of agree. Like I said, I think we are using it on surface level. Um, for us, we've really started to speak to our customers again and understand how they're using it at the moment. So again, that kind of the real world of how it's being used, the hype that we see across, advertising and within some industry presses and businesses that come and talk about, oh my God, we're going to completely revolutionize the way you do things via AI. But what is the reality of that? For us, like I said, we're looking at how do we basically bring to life Alto Intelligence, which is going to be our suite of AI tools and how they're directly built into Alto as opposed to having to work across third parties and multiple tabs and multiple platforms. So for us, the primary goal is about reducing admin and operational drag on the teams. And recent research suggests that agents are losing around about 8 hours a week on tasks that effectively could be automated. And from a surface level, we're probably seeing that already, like rewriting emails, like get AI to go and rewrite your email and save a couple of minutes and it sound much more professional. And if I'd have probably spent 10 minutes trying to draft it myself and then still
Yeah.
send it and realize there was an error in it, that's now obviously gone. So yeah, how can we save time? Um, Again, and our data suggests that the team could be spending around that time then focusing on winning more instructions, driving more deals, not being tied to the desk. So our philosophy behind Alto Intelligence is giving the team their day back, removing the admin burden, making them feel like an agent again. And that's going to come across multiple parts. From surface levels, we've seen the basics of that. How does it craft your descriptions? How does it tidy your photos and name all of your images and
Yeah.
complete all your bullet points? But for next, it's like I said, a focus on what we call agentic AI. That's taking those admin tasks, such as things like let's look at compliance, gas safeties, EPCs. How can it start to spot what ones are expiring? How can it automatically liaise with the tenants and the landlord of that property, then start to instruct suppliers? How can it then manage that job through to completion and then share all that documentation back to the relevant parties? Again, tenants, landlords. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Alto Intelligence as a almost having it baked into the actual software itself, to
Yeah.
me has an absolute advantage because when we don't talk about this enough, but we are custodians of people's data. Every time that you need to log out of one system and then jump on another one to write half an email with AI and to use another one to edit your photos, every time you need to come in and out of that there's a risk, isn't it, James, that we're leaking data here and there, and that we're not really operating in a secure environment. Whereas if it's in your CRM, it's coming straight from there. There's a bit of security there for the users as well, isn't there?
There is, and I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns around AI at the moment. You're using all these different platforms, you're typing all sorts in and including data, and realistically, what is happening with that data? How is it being processed? Who is responsible for that data? And I think nobody's particularly worrying about it at the moment because
Yeah,
everyone's doing it, but I'm sure at some point there, we will see something explode around that area. But you're right, if it's inside the product, it is protected. You've got your custodians, you've got your audit trails of everything that's happening in terms of who did it. That information is shared across all of your team rather than being their standalone logins or different AI platforms that they might be using. And also, where it's hugely important is one thing that we are extremely good at is data migration, migrating the data from the company's previous CRM. So then being able to utilize all of that data that's available to then target the right audience, whether it's marketing, to be able to then track previous compliance and renew new compliance. So, like I said, keeping it centralized massively important, but having that years of data where it can learn, pull off, spot opportunity is
yeah.
going to be massive as well. Mm.
I mean, that to me is the key. We're going to talk about migration anxiety in a second, because it is the number one anxiety that agents get when they are choosing a new CRM or thinking about it. I've always, CRMs like that changing your CRMs like going to the dentist for that nagging hole in your tooth where you just put it off and you put it off and you put it off because you're staving off the pain. But the truth is you need to sort of jump on it. But when you talk to agents about migration anxiety, I'm going to try and tie this together in your
Yeah.
last point because I think it is really really key. You ask them what's the one thing that you're anxious about. They'll tell you, well, I don't want to lose my data. And so you quantify what is that? They say, well, I want my floor plans, I want my photos, and I want all of that stuff. Well, okay, fine. We'll bring that across for you. No issues. What else? Well, I want the details of everybody I've ever dealt with, every person that's ever viewed a house, everyone that we've ever valued for. I want all of that data in there. And for the largest part, James, and this is nothing to do with the software and it's everything to do with the agents. They then, and I know this because I've been one of those agents, if you were to walk into my office and have a look at what under the hood of the CRM, there's probably about 20,000 to 30,000 contacts in there that we have accumulated over the years. And if you were to say to me, David, you don't need them because you've not contacted them, I'd say, oh no, I need them just in case. But the
Yeah.
truth is, the honest truth is, I think that a lot of sort of what you're talking about with Alto intelligence, but certainly AI as a whole, can help us wake up dormant, you know, mailing lists, effectively nurturing contacts that we've had before. People, you know, the very basics of a state agency that we lecture people on, keeping in touch, saying hello every once in a while, adding a little bit of value. It becomes easier, doesn't it, James, when the software is helping you do that heavy lifting?
It does, and I completely agree with you. I'm the same. If I reflect back on my years of agency as well, it was almost like, yeah, let's keep their details. We'll do a big mail drop next week and we'll talk about what's happening in the industry and we'll write some blogs. But the reality is you got sidetracked. It took so much time to start thinking about what's the content I'm going to send and is that going to land? Whereas, as you've mentioned, AI now brings that to life. It can spot the right audience, that the interactions you've had previously. It can look at what's happening in the market and when did someone last move or are they likely to move? And then it will then draft all the content and target that audience for you. And then it can then give you, like I said, recommendations. So, do you know what? This people is open that document. We recommend that you reach out, you speak to them. You know, this person has lived in this property for 6 years, and based on what trends in market, they're probably going to look to move again soon. So, like I said, it starts to really open up that opportunity, and I think that's where the leverage is, right? Tell me who I need to contact, draft me information to help me target that audience, and then let me take over my experience of that personal one-to-one and that conversational piece to rebuild that relationship, maintain that relationship, and win their business. Mm.
Because the key to everything that we do in a people industry is having better quality conversations, and sometimes we just can't see the woods for the trees because you've got a very overwhelming list of people. What are we going to who are we going to contact first? And I think the technology can help us really filter it and work out who is worth engaging with, who
Yeah.
doesn't want to be engaged with anymore, and that's absolutely fine. So I think I really sort of applaud that, and I think that is the future. It's such a cliche to say that those databases are full of gold, but they really are. I mean, you just mentioned something there. We talk about cycles of people moving. You know, if we sold you a house 5 years ago, and you were on a 5 year fixed term
Yeah.
mortgage product, it's very likely that you're going to be shopping around now for your next mortgage. There's at least an FS lead in me keeping in touch with you if you're not going to sell the house. So it's always worth waking up that database and working out how you can actually re-engage with your audience and, you know, front of mind, if you like, and staying in front of that audience the whole time is naturally, obviously, going to be much better for your business. So that's where I think we overcome a lot of the migration anxiety, is actually because you've got very intelligent products that not only um, can utilize the information that we're dragging across, but am I right in saying that the migration experience is a lot better than it ever was?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've alluded to it earlier, like migration is probably the one reason people tend to stay on their platform, even though it's not serving them anymore, because it feels so risky to move that data, not knowing what data you're going to get. It feels fragile, but at Alto, we've invested significantly in our migration process because we know it is such a big barrier. So, it's super structured, it's super supported. We've done over like 4,000 migrations.
Wow.
We've migrated from over 50 different softwares. We can do bespoke custom migrations, whether they're from bespoke CRMs or whether they're from spreadsheets. We've really started to double down on that data migration and bring across more information than ever before. Like you said, historically it was like, who is the person, what's the property, and where's the photos and the floor plans? And now you're looking at all the compliance elements, you're looking at things like all the previous and historic maintenance jobs that live across that property, all the documentation that comes with it. But more importantly, It's not just about the level of data that we can migrate and where it comes from, but it's also simplifying that testing of data as well, because that was always a hugely time consuming experience. And it goes back to many other things we've spoken about, like the intent to
Yep.
do it
Yeah.
strong, but the will to actually go and do it and execute it often wanes because you get sidetracked before book across. Yeah, I could spend the next hour going and checking a couple of records, but actually I've got a valuation here, which is significantly more important. So I'll come
Yeah.
back to that, and then before you know it, you're chasing time, and the CRM needs to go live, and you just go, yeah, we just take whatever you've got. But effectively, like I said, we had a much more of a detailed testing process. Log into existing, log into a test site, validate your data across 10 records. We actually automate a lot of that now for our customers. We provide what we call like a data validation report where they can just quickly view the report, see the high level stats, and confirm that that data is correct. So many times, we have migrated from certain CRMs. We've done them so often and so frequent that we actually now know what that data is going to be presented like and what it's going to look like, and we can actually validate it for that customer that need to get their eyes on it. So we've got effectively, we understand people still want control and to view. We've got 3 or 4 different ways that you can now go and validate your data from, like I said, do you want a really hands-on approach? Do you want just a data validation report? Or actually, you know what? We're confident enough that we've done this so many times that we guarantee your data is going to be perfectly presented to you in the Alto software.
Superb. So we know we touched on this earlier, but just jumping back to it, you reference renters' rights and obviously the changes that are happening here. And I think it's really interesting. I read something really interesting that some other super intelligent person said the other day, so I can't claim it's in any way my own, but the business of lettings and management, effectively property management, is moving away from sort of a simple service of just throwing tenants in properties and collecting rent to almost a compliance management, as almost like as an operational discipline. And I know that that's something that you guys have and I think as agents, by the way, I think we need to get our heads around that. We need to accept that that is the future for us at the moment, that there is so much going on in the compliance space, and that is the burden that people are looking to alleviate for themselves. Certainly when it comes to landlords, that's certainly the thing that keeps them awake at night. And it's no longer just the basics and the basic service provision, but it's more that compliance management. What's your view on that?
Oh no, I mean I 100% agree. I might be on webinar with yourself or someone else where we had this very same conversation around compliance, and ultimately, yeah, your job is hugely changing. Um, Renters' rights, huge change in the industry that I think has got a lot of people worried, but also it's got a lot of people, reveling in what a great change this is for us. EPCs, we're going to see changes for EPCs that are concerning landlords as well and making sure their properties are compliant, but they're also very admin heavy. So kind of playing on a few different facets here of AI, compliance, change in industry. It's how do you kind of bring all those three together to support you? How can you ensure that you are giving the best possible service to your clients, keeping their properties obviously, compliant with the constant changes that are happening, but how do you speed that work up, reduce that admin burden with the use of AI? But ultimately, as you've said, people's roles are changing. Like it's going to be that much more manage rather than managing transactions, managing the lifeblood of that tenancy, managing the compliance and the regulatory that sits on that property and for that landlord, and the constant evolving changes that will live in that space. So that this is now we've been hugely focused on um, ensuring that we present that data to agents, ensuring they remain compliant, they can action all those areas, share all those documents. But as I keep alluding to, also also simplifying that process with the use of agentic AI workflows, integrations with our partners that speed up those areas and give the agent their time back to focus on the stuff that matters most. Yeah.
So, James, I know that we're sort of recording at the moment midway through April.
Yeah.
You've got some exciting events and things coming up as well. Do you want to sort of give us a glimpse of what lies ahead?
Yes, so on the 29th of April, we're going to be running an Alto intelligence event. So in there, we're going to have fireside chats with some of our partners that we work with. There's going to be fireside chats with, again, leading industry figures, talking about how they're currently utilizing AI. We're going to be showcasing what's going to be coming within the Alto platform and how that's going to support our agents. We're going to talk about, again, like the cost of AI versus the cost of new hires versus what's going on in the industry. So, yeah, without giving too much away,
There's a lot going on there.
a
Yeah.
lot going on. I said we can share the links. I can suggest that people can sign up and they can attend remotely, or they can come to our office and attend in person. But ultimately, hear from partners, industry peers, other agents of what's going on, what's happening in the industry, what changes are happening, and again, how our software is evolving and supporting both our partners and our customers with that journey.
So I think it's super important. I highly recommend people jump on that, meet the people behind the brand, but also the partners that help, pull it all together and the different services that are being provided. And it will give a really clear snapshot of what the future looks like. And it's fair to say that if you carry on building on your recent successes, it looks very exciting. And it's great, that we talk about you talked about success man, success, client success, championing and so on. That's really where a CRM sets themselves apart, where you sort of understand that it's not just functional admin moving bits of information around. It's an essential tool in an agent's kit bag, if you like, to allow them to achieve more with perhaps less resources as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And maybe that's where when we reflect, a few years back and, we probably weren't as responsive, whether that was on support times or supporting customers with the adoption of that product. It is now more important than ever, making sure that they can maximize all the features that are available in that CRM, understanding how those process and workflows come to life, but more importantly, the benefit that is to them as well, right? Because we can all go, look, our software does this, and this, and it's got all these great workflows baked in. But ultimately, what does that mean for the agent? How does that help them? How does it support them? And
Yeah.
where are the efficiency gains? Is it in terms of time? Is it in terms of winning more instructions? Is it in terms of speeding up sales progression, identifying the best possible tenant to move in, automating administration tasks? Um, it's easy to showcase and make it look amazing at demo stage, but the reality is the most important part is actually driving the adoption of those features once they've got their hands on it. So understand how it works, simplifying the journey to use it, but then supporting our agents in terms of adopting how they need to adopt and what it's going to give them.
Superb, James. As always, really exciting to see what's going on behind the scenes there at Alto. Thanks for keeping us up to date with that, and good luck with the event that's coming up.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.